Today I'm sharing a unique video, photoshopping classic bodybuilders as if they were open class plus Keone. I've chosen the best in the world who are most likely to switch to open. Both Dino, Mike and Josema are very heavy classic competitors, and Keone is also at the weight limit for the category. Let's see how they would look with several more kilos of muscle. I'm going to compare them with some other bodybuilders too. This is all fiction and entertainment. We can't know how they'd be until they take the step. Maybe some will lose more of their waist, some less. Maybe for some only one muscle group will grow and not the others. I don't know. And let's start with Mike Sommerfeld, since he said that never in his life, never, would he switch to open or to 212. Well, I'm changing him now. He's the one whose poses we'll see the most. I think Mike has a spectacular physique, and even if he switched to open and lost a bit of his waist, he wouldn't lose it completely. Most of the images I'm using of Mike are from the 2025 Arnold, where he weighed in at 96 kilos and he would compete at around 100 kilos. Let's suppose that with this edit I'm making he weighs 110 or 120, something like that. I think he would grow a lot, especially in his legs and back, which are already his strong points. Maybe in his glutes, but not so much in his chest and arms. I think he would lose little in his waist. It wouldn't get much wider, but this would be noticeable in some poses like the abs and thighs pose. Even so, I think he would maintain great lines and be an aesthetic open competitor. Mike would be a tough opponent in every pose. But for me, I would especially highlight the front double biceps and the abs and thighs. As you'll see in this video, I believe if the classic competitors switched, they'd excel in open. They have great genetics and are very aesthetic. I think they would restore what's been missing. I want us to take a look now at the classic physique champion. Let's go with Dino. I haven't widened his waist that much because it's extremely slim and I have the feeling it won't grow that much, even when he's in the off-season. Weighing around 130 kilos, his waist always stays tight and under control. This man has amazing genetics. I think where he would grow the most if he switched to open would be in his forearms, which are genetically gifted. They'd be even more exaggerated, like Phil Heath. I think his arms in general would also grow, and especially his legs and lower body. I think his chest and shoulders would be bigger and bulkier, but I think his back, even if he switched to open, wouldn't grow that much. He gives it a lot of priority, he works it really hard, and it's still his weak point, at least in width, because its thickness is actually good. Keep in mind that I'm adding muscle mass to them here, but this is only seen in 2 dimensions. I can't give that 3D effect with editing that their muscles would have. I'm sorry, I'm not an AI. That's what happens when you do it by hand. I can't make them any more defined either. The thing is, for me, their biceps would look like this from the back, with even more exaggerated arms and forearms and huge legs. The back and shoulders would be broader, but without improving as much as the other groups. This side chest pose isn't edited, even if it seems like it. Dino really looked like this. Here he already looks open. I really didn't have to do much, and I do think this pose would be one of the best for this bodybuilder and for all open bodybuilding. With that massive leg and glute from the side, that full chest and shoulders, and those enormous arms, he leaves no weak points. I think this pose and the front double biceps pose would be very hard to beat. I'm not too optimistic about the abs and thighs pose. I don't think his waist would get much wider, but I also don't think he'd gain much back width in this pose, and he would look narrow. Let's go with Josema Beast, one of the guys who's flirting the most with the open category. And I want us to start with this side chest pose. I think he would especially improve his shoulders, which are already 3D, they're very pumped. I think it's one of the muscle groups he develops most easily. I think his chest would gain some volume and his legs, especially the hamstrings and glutes, would get wider, but I don't think his arm would change that much. In the abs and thighs pose, I think his lats would look more pumped. That his arms would grow slightly and that especially his legs would increase in size, but they would still be flat. If he competed in open with 120 kilos or more, I think his front double biceps pose could look like this. With more back pump, definitely wider legs, and a bit more arm size, especially a higher biceps peak. I didn't want to make his triceps much bigger or pump up his legs that much because I don't think that's going to change. Let's choose one of his most impressive and powerful poses, the front lat spread, which is required in open. Likewise, here I wanted to give him a pumped look in the shoulders, make his lats a bit bigger, and increase his leg size, keeping them smooth just as they are and without adding excessive volume to the arms. In the back double biceps pose, I think he's super dominant. It's his best pose. Imagine this pose looking even better. I think his hamstrings and adductors would noticeably grow, which are already very impressive. His biceps would probably gain a bit more peak, maybe his forearms a little, and especially his back would get wider. Obviously the waist as well. Now let's move on to Keone Pearson. He has already competed in open, yes I know, but he hadn't had enough transition time and he only did it to try it out. I'm not as optimistic with Keone. And I think he wouldn't do so well in open because his abs would be completely destroyed, just as I show in this most muscular. While he would gain size, there's no doubt about that. I think the alien in his abs would try to come out even stronger. It would open up even more. Keone's back double biceps pose looks spectacular to me. I'm using a photo from the last Olympia when he wasn't as shredded. I think his incredible hamstrings and adductors would grow even more. His quads are also huge. I think his waist would get wider and his stomach would stick out a bit. His back, shoulders and arm would gain significant size. Let's go with this side chest pose, another one of his strong poses. Here, he can practically compete with open bodybuilders already. Even so, I wanted to give him an extra touch of muscle mass, especially by increasing his hamstrings and glutes, where I think he has great potential to grow, and by making his arms and chest even wider. As you've noticed, I've also modified their faces a little bit. Lastly, let's go with this kind of strange abs and thighs, most muscular hybrid pose. And even though he would be bigger and more massive, I think his abs would be totally destroyed. The abdominal diastasis would get worse. I want you to see now this comparison of the abs and thighs from the Arnold Classic of these three top bodybuilders with these new bodybuilders. X-Classic, these new open competitors with 10 to 20 more kilos of muscle. I think they don't look out of place at all. They could even compete against Hadi and against Andrew in this pose. I want you to see now these back double biceps poses compared with some of the best open competitors, especially Keone's and Josema's back double biceps poses. I think they would be devastating in this pose. And finally, I want us to look at these front double biceps poses, where that shape and that spectacular aesthetics of the classic bodybuilders would play a very important role. Especially in the case of Dino and in the case of Mike, who I think would maintain very good lines. They look like old school bodybuilders and I think they could beat these men from the open category. All of this is pure fiction. It's just entertainment. We don't know what they'd be like. Several months ago, I introduced the Fixing Bodybuilders series, which I'll link in the description and pinned comment. I encourage you to check it out. These videos take a lot of work. If you want more, show your support and I'll make more for the channel. That's it. Ares Whitey Culturismo signing off. See you next video.